These chaotic streets, lined with roadside restaurants, cheap hotels, and distinctive small shops, can be found in the district of Pasha Ganj, located in central Delhi. The local police station is close to the railway station, next to the gates of the infamous Old Town, and is based to 160 serving officers. Among them is 26-year-old Vikram Singh. He is attending the daily 8 o'clock briefing. During the meeting, Vikram and his colleagues are given the details of an anticipated religious procession involving some 800 participants. It's expected it may cause some congestion on the roads, and the police have a responsibility to ensure good traffic flow. Despite his young age, Singh has already risen to the rank of inspector and intends to pursue a career in the force. He comes from a respectable middle-class background, and high-ranking police officer would be considered a suitable ambition. But the climb up the corporate ladder demands a great deal of the young policeman. 24-hour shifts are normal for Singh, and the opportunity for healthy sleep is rare.
In the morning they tell us what all we have to do, what all we have to check. We have to maintain law and order in the city. And then in the evening we have to tell what all we have done in the day.
A very stressful job?
Very stressful. Definitely we get several kind of complaints and different types of complaints. We have to solve them.
Next to Mumbai, Delhi is the most important metropolis in India. But while Mumbai is a centre for global commerce, Delhi is home to the seat of Indian government and stands for tradition. The city is divided into 3 major parts: the ancient centre of Old Delhi, New Delhi, constructed under British colonial rule, and in the last decade, as a result of business development, the growing Delhi suburbs. The new Indira Gandhi International Airport and the high-rise district Gurgaon have been trying to tame the chaos of 17 million people sharing one urbanised area, without much success. The new motto of the city's wealthy is to leave the centre and relocate to live and work in the suburbs, where there is more space. Back in Old Delhi, Police Inspector Vikram Singh and his partner patrol the streets of Pasha Ganj on their 30-year-old Royal Enfield motorcycle. They're out inspecting hotel registration forms, which are closely monitored. Ever since the terrorist attacks in Mumbai in November 2008, the entire country has been on alert. There is a fear that Pakistani Taliban terror cells could be hiding in every nook and cranny of the old city, and the narrow lanes need to be controlled by foot.
A lot of people stay here because it's near to the railway station. They come from the different state and they don't have money to buy home or go any other place, so they just sleep on the footpath, and sometimes they expire also because it's too much hot and too much cold here. So then we have to take them to the hospital and not do all the things that last night also we do sometimes because too much congested near the railway station. So we have people from every walk of life here. We can see from every state, in fact from every part of the country. Yeah, it's not a police service. I will call this as a social service. Police is more like a social service. We have to serve each and every kind of a people here.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, but it's true.
The police in Old Delhi must work tirelessly to maintain order on the district's bustling streets. The eastern end of the district is home to the largest handbag and satchel market in Asia. Many traders pile their goods to the edge of the public roads in order to advertise their wares, impeding traffic. Such violations do have to be policed, but remain one of the area's smaller concerns.
Inspector Singh, can you understand from a European point of view, this scenery is a bit crazy?
It's your aspect, how you look at it, whether you look at it as a crazy or you look at it as something very lively. This is not craziness, and we are trained for this only. We have to handle this situation every day. Everybody has different temper and every different time, so we can't say they lose their temper, but because everybody lose temper at some point of time. So they also sometimes. but we can handle it. That's a little bit dangerous, but these things go on. These are allowed. How will they carry in just a congested area? It's not possible to bring truck or something like big truck here. So they use this cycle rickshaw.
As night falls in Delhi, the ancient city is transformed. For the city's police, this is the toughest part of the day. This young man was wounded by a drug addict with a knife. Back at the station, this pickpocket is begging for mercy. He will be held in the cells for the next few hours, before being released with a caution. Since Delhi hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2010, the district of Paharganj has increasingly become a tourist hotspot. It's a popular destination for holidaymakers and backpackers from around the world. The small boutique hotels are not only inexpensive, but most also offer rooms to Western standards, which is not always a given in India. To ensure the safety of tourists, Chief Inspector Vikram Singh and his force increasingly patrol the trendiest night spots and often show their presence on the hip Arakashan road.
Also Angst hatten wir bis jetzt überhaupt nicht, weil es sind überall Leute.
We aren't afraid. There are people everywhere, and no one has tried to bother us. They just stare because you're a Western, but we're not scared.
Weil das für die ganz unbekannt ist, aber Angst hatten wir bis jetzt eigentlich noch nicht.
Ja, also ich denke mal, man sollte sich einfach im Klaren sein, dass man
One has to be aware that we are not in our lovely Germany, where everything is regulated.
Oder Österreich natürlich.
It's a bit more chaotic here. You have to be prepared for that. And then it all comes together.
Und dann funktioniert auch eigentlich alles immer ganz gut.
Ja, man kommt ja nicht nach Indien, hier irgendwie, weiß ich,
People don't come to India for a vacation.
Erholungsurlaub zu machen, sondern einfach so, ja,
They come because of the culture.
Kultur zu erleben.
For tourists at least, it seems the old city of Delhi may only be as appealing as it is chaotic. In order to take advantage of the city's bustling charm, a few years ago this Dutch entrepreneur founded the Delhi Bicycle Company. Every morning at 6, they take groups of tourists on a 4-hour bike ride through Old Delhi. Local guide SHASHI is taking this group of German and Austrian travellers on the tour. Between 6 and 10 a.m, the traffic in Old Delhi is still relatively quiet, which is why the cycle tour has such an early start.
For me, Old Delhi is a place which is very interesting because it's full of narrow streets. So every street has a different story to tell you. So every day when you come, I have this experience coming here for quite a long, and every day I come, I see something very different. And it's like a very routine life which you can see in Old Delhi. Means no doubt people have moved to some posh colonies and to some ultra-high buildings. But Old Delhi, I think it still restrains, it still contains its cultural side, its old traditions. So it's a full of a cultural feeling for me.
It's really interesting to cycle around. As a pedestrian, it feels like you're always getting in the way. You seem to have more authority with a bicycle, and it's a completely different perspective. It's really exciting for me to experience the traffic so directly. It feels completely different than when you're in a rickshaw. With a bike, you're right in the middle of it. In the spice market of the old city, It's as though time has stood still. The people here live almost exactly as they did 3 centuries past, under the reign of the Great Mogul. The roof of the indoor market provides a great vantage point. From here, the crumbling colonial buildings are a reminder of more prosperous times, at least as far as the dilapidated structure is concerned.
Ja, der Wahnsinn pur, ne? Also es ist nur mit Extremen zu beschreiben.
This is sheer madness. It can only be described by the extremes. On the one hand, the unbelievably beautiful buildings, their facades slowly crumbling away. On the other hand, the sheer poverty. What can I say? You can only describe it with platitudes. I find it lively on the one hand, on the other hand also sad. These very contradictory emotions. It's really extreme what's happened here. I'm standing here and there's so many people around. I have never seen so many people around me before in one place. There's different things happening wherever you look. People sell. They're running around, the dogs are jumping. I almost ran over a puppy. I completely didn't notice it. You don't even know what you should be looking out for. The amount of beggars is irritating. It's hard to deal with this. When one person asks me for something, then you might give him something. You almost make an excuse. You really can't give anything, because there's so many of them. As soon as you become friendly, there's more coming towards you. You become arrogant to get rid of them. Chandi Chowk is the name for the historical main road in Delhi. In the morning, beggars line the streets waiting for food. They are also tended to by a consulting doctor, working free of charge. The cyclists only have time to momentarily process the situation. But for tour guide SHASHI, it is an integral part of Indian society and has been for centuries.
It's not something new. It hasn't developed like from the last couple of years, but it's a legacy of the feudal system which used to exist in India long years ago. Especially in this system, the feudal lords, they used to own the big sources, they used to own the land, and on the other side there used to be labor class, landless labor who never had any sources. Of course, India got this nuclear power, so which very few countries in the world they have. So I think this is the biggest achievement. What on the other hand means like I think India needs to more focus on its poverty, on its economic problems, to make the poor rich, to give them the sources. I think those should be the priorities.
The final stage takes the cyclists from the famous Red Fort to the Friday Mosque. The small group of cyclists have now been in the saddle for 3 hours. Unfortunately, what may seem a picturesque old town to the tourists is also the site of an unmerciful daily struggle for many of the people trying to survive here. There is not enough space, and targeted urban planning is incredibly difficult, mainly down to a lack of land registration and regulation. The ownership of many sites is largely unknown. This means investors will not pump money into the area when they can never be sure of the legal status of their ownership. So daily life continues in much the same way as it has for decades. For us in Europe, it seems so normal that the trash is taken away, that it's in bins and that someone takes care of it. It's hard to understand, but for them it's so normal. And you also get used to it and accept that it's just here, that it belongs to the city texture, that it's commonplace. Here in Delhi and in other Indian cities, the whole life takes place in the streets. You get the impression that not much happens indoors. And accordingly, the slaughter also takes place in the streets. Where else? And that's why it's so extreme. It's an experience to see it, but it belongs here, and it's interesting to see how people handle this. There is no panacea in sight for the sprawling urban mess. In fact, it's likely to keep getting worse before it gets better. India's rural exodus has only just begun. cities like Delhi and Mumbai are expected to grow explosively in the coming decades. By 2030, it's estimated Delhi will swell from 17 to 28 million people, becoming a true megacity. Even now, 1,000 new cars are registered in the capital daily. The subway and new road network are just a drop in the ocean when compared to the real scale of the city's mass transit problems.
Thank you for your time, sir.
VENKAT NARAYAN is a well-known television and newspaper journalist in Delhi. He has followed the political development of India for almost half a century. For him, the great shifts of the last 70 years on the subcontinent are a healthy process that should ultimately bring benefits to all sections of society. But it's going to require some patience.
India is like an elephant. It cannot run like a horse. If an elephant falls, it will be very difficult for people to lift it. It has to stand on its own. So it is not a great idea to push the elephant to run as fast as a horse. So you need a lot of patience.
Austrian Tina Mukherjee is one of few Westerners to have made the Indian capital their permanent residence, and she's lived in the city for many years. In 1995, she married an Indian businessman and moved here from Salzburg. Tina has worked hard to find ways not to abandon her Western standard of living. For some time, she has been a member at the Palms Country Club in Gurgaon, where the wealthy can relax, far away from the poverty of the city centre.
Das ist ja wirklich eine wunderschöne Anlage.
Yes, especially the swimming pool, and it's Monday morning, yet there's no one here, despite the tropical temperatures.
Und können Sie das auch nutzen?
Naturally, we come here every Monday and Wednesday to swim, and are always alone.
Wie gibt's das?
Well, other people are busy.
Now, the British ruled this country for 200 years and went home in 1947. At that time, the literacy rate was barely 15%. Today, it is nearly 70%. And in India, there is a connection between education and your ability to get a good job. Those who have not had the privilege of having a decent education, they are languishing at the bottom of the ladder.
Would you like to have it? Yeah, we would like to have 2 sweet fresh lime soda, please. Thank you.
It's like in a 5-star hotel in Europe, only much warmer and with excellent service.
Yes, there are more mobile phones than toilets, that's absolutely true. The concept of toilet, the Western kind of toilet, is still not percolated to the bottom. So people go into the open, the fields, and every village has fields and all that kind of this thing. And you have, each village has a tank, a water body. And people go there, defecate, brush their teeth, have a bath, swim in the water body and come home and things like that.
The reason why there's so few Austrian women living here is the weather. It's over 40 degrees for more than 6 months of the year. And when you come from Austria, it's hard for the body to adjust. Then there's the infrastructure. The life here is exhausting. Many electricity failures. It takes a long time to travel from point A to B. There's hardly any supermarkets, so it's really hard for women here. Personally, I can only deal with the poverty in India because I get actively involved. I do it in 2 ways. First, I try to support the people in my environment, especially children of my employees. I pay for their school fees and medical care. I make sure the children of my cleaners can have access to computers so that they have more chances in life. I also engage with street children, that is, with projects that deal with them. And this does take up a few hours a week. But only long-term actions can make a difference here.
Now, India's growth rate, it used to be 8-9% 5-6 years ago. It is down to 6%. And the World Bank and IMF are saying, you know, it will be only less than 5%. But what is the rate of growth in Europe and America? 2%? 2.5%? We are still, our growth rate is better than America and Europe. And do you know our trade with China? It's $70 billion. In 3 years, it is going to be $100 billion. So the Indians have realized that we can't depend only on Europe and America. We are doing business with Africa. You go anywhere in Africa, you'll find a Tata car or this, that and the other. South America, we are expanding in a big way. So we are diversifying our trade basket.
Global player.
Global player. So it doesn't bother to us. Greece and Spain, they go broke, but India will never go broke.
For those benefiting from India's boom, the beautiful future of Delhi isn't actually in the city limits. It's beyond, in the 25 to 40 kilometers of planned suburbs. Gurgaon and Noida are the new trendy neighborhoods, filled with the dream homes of affluent Delhi residents. Noida has gained world renown for its Formula One Grand Prix circuit. The Indian Grand Prix has been hosted here since 2011. The region straddles the states of Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. The vast, former agricultural land provides the ideal location for satellite towns. Huge housing developments have sprung up, some of which are already inhabited. Overall, the new residential area expects to become as big as Dublin. 4 million people in Delhi live in slums, where the air quality of the capital is amongst the worst in the world. The worsening living conditions in the city have sent many young parents, like Nitin and Anju Malhotra, looking for healthier alternatives.
This is really a nice place, and because of greenery, whatever I was looking, greenery and cool place, because of that reason I'm all, you know, as Delhi is really crowded, but here we can find like, we can stay very nicely, our kids can, you know, move here and there with peaceful area. That this is basically the reason behind it.
Yeah, American lifestyle, you will see the gymnasium is there and swimming pool facilities there, even jogging track is there. So you can see the American culture over here. Like it's a huge tower is there, like it's a 12th floor tower. So that's the only reason, like my motto is to buying a home is it's a very huge buildings are there. That's the only reason.
Delhi just can't meet the demand for housing from the new Indian middle class. The supply chain is short, some 300,000 apartments. So even for those with the money, it's hard to find available accommodation. The offer of new high-rise housing is, for many, the only realistic option for contemporary living space. They desire generous space and Western-style planned living, with 3 bedrooms and 2 to 3 bathrooms per apartment. It's a style of life that's particularly suitable for Indian families, where in most cases, a new daughter-in-law moves into the husband's family home. It's typical for 3 generations to share a household, but decidedly unusual for that household to measure 200 square meters, rather than a slightly more modest living space of around 60 square meters. So the young family's enthusiasm is quite understandable.
Wow feeling. It's really, if I'll compare from my home, which is in Delhi, it's really lovely, and the space of this home is wonderful, and I really like the kitchen because it's my area, and I can enjoy here as in kitty party I can arrange here, wherever the kids can enjoy. They have their good bedroom.
The Malhotras belong to the growing ranks of the new Indian middle class, which now has a population of around 300 million individuals. As they move to the satellite towns like Gurgaon, their living conditions should improve significantly, provided that the sewage system works and the country can get its energy problem under control. During the most recent summer, half of the days passed without power. 600 million Indians were affected, and power outages across the country are still common. There simply isn't enough energy to go around. For the vast majority, some 1 billion impoverished Indians, the future looks less rosy. For these people with no education, struggling to fulfill basic needs as elementary as having enough food, clean water, and fresh air, the economic boom brought on by nuclear power is a pure numbers game. Just how sustainable is a society built on such a stark imbalance between the haves and have-nots?
The Hindus believe, rightly or wrongly, in the theory of reincarnation. What that in simple language means is, if in this birth, if you are born a poor man, the religion teaches you to believe that you are a bad guy in your previous birth. You may have committed some crimes, so it is God's way of punishing you by making you a poor man. Okay? The average Indian believes this, which is why there will never be a revolution of the kind you had in China or Cuba or Vietnam, any of these communist countries, you see? So that is not going to happen.
Here is something for all the Hindus of Delhi to share, rich or poor. The city's many festivals. Constant celebrations of weddings and worship to 1,000 Hindu gods. In Delhi, you live in the present, in the moment, and let the future take care of itself. And if you aren't done with the huge challenges you may face in this life, then maybe they can wait for the next one.